What we're going to learn about today is using wood screws with cordless drills. Now there's a proper way to screw these in, which is called the pre-drilling technique, and this video will explain how to do that. Okay, so what we're going to do, our goal is we're going to learn the importance of a pilot hole, a clearance hole, and countersinking. Okay, and the outcome from this is you'll be able to efficiently screw in wood screws into your project. So why do we pre-drill? Well, the main three purposes that we've got outlined here is that we ensure the material doesn't chip, crack, or split. Okay, so what will happen is if we don't drill these holes in first, as you can see, to put this wood screw in, you may find that your material might crack in half. Okay, it might crack, split, it might chip out, and it's not going to look very good, and it might even be useless. So you might have to start again. Alright, this will create a nice neat finish, as we can see is another reason here. It'll create it nice and neat, nice and flat, no cracks, no splits. And the other thing is, if we can see these arrows here, if you do this properly, it'll actually pull the material together nice and tight. Okay, so pull it nice and tight together, and that's exactly what you want. Now, countersinking and pilot holes. So what we've got here is we've got our anchor piece, you can see on the photo, and we've got our captive piece. Now, captive piece is the first one that you're screwing through, and the anchor piece is the one that you want to hold it to. All right. Now, what we're looking at here is our three different things we pointed out before. So we got our countersink bit first. Now that's this little one here, as you can see, it's labeled, and that is to fit the head of the screw. This bit here. So that's the shape you want your hole to be there. Okay. Then we've got our clearance hole right here. Now, what you want that to be is, if you have a look at your screw, you've got the core up the center here, and then you've got your threads that stick out a bit further. Now, the threads generally stick out about the same as what this bit here does. Now, this is called the shank, as you can see by the label. You want the clearance hole in your captive piece to be just slightly bigger than that. And that's why it's called a clearance hole, because your screw will completely clear that hole, and it'll actually hold in by this piece here, which is your pilot hole. Okay, now your pilot hole is drilled out to the size of that little core there without the threads. So what will happen is that core will nicely fit into that little pilot hole, and the threads will actually hold it in there. And as you screw down, this head here will eventually hit that countersink hole, and that is what will actually pull the pressure down to your second piece. And what that looks like in some timber looks like that a little bit. So you can see there, that hole's a little bit thinner, that one's a bit thicker, and then we've got our countersink hole there ready to screw straight through it. Okay, so what are we using on our projects? We'll be using 50mm long 8-gauge screws. Okay, now 8 gauge is just the size of the thickness of this, but not to worry, I'll select the correct drill bits for you. A drill and a driver. Okay, so now a drill, you'll put drill bits in to do these holes, whereas a driver will just have a screw tip on it. And they're usually a little bit different. Now you can put a driver piece in the drills also, but we'll get to that when we start screwing these together. Now, countersink bit. So the countersink bit, as we can see here, is actually shaped like that. It's got a point. It's like a triangle bit, and that'll actually do your hole there for your screw head. Your 5mm bit is going to be for your clearance hole. So with your screws are usually about 4.5mm wide, and that'll completely clear that clearance hole there without touching it. And your 3mm drill bit is usually what we use for a pilot hole. Your screw with the threads usually stick out about 1mm on each side, making it 5mm, but the actual shaft down the middle is usually about 3mm or slightly less. So we'll use a 3mm bit for that. Now what this will look like when it's done, as you can see there, nice neat finish, little screw heads. If you wanted to, you could putty them over if you were just painting it, say, a colour. Otherwise, you'd try and hide them, so where you're not going to see them, or put a bit of timber over them if you're doing some furniture, because you don't really want to see these. but you can see they're nice and neat. There's no splits. It's nice and perfect, and that's what it should look like when you're finished. And now we know that in the center there, we've got a 5mm hole, and in this piece of material here, in the captive piece, or the anchor piece rather, the anchor piece, we've got a 3mm hole. Okay, now what I've got is on the learning task, there's a question sheet attached. I want you to download that and just answer some questions and then submit that back to the learning task. All right, and if you missed anything, just watch this video again, okay? Thank you.